Are we live yet? Oh my god. It's like such a burden trying to get YouTube to just pay attention. Stream. Start everything. Let's do it. All right. Okay, we are actually live. So, I just want to say tonight is Shootin the Shit with Brian Hoffman. Tonight we're sponsored by Red Bull, none other. It'll give you wings. You can go to redbull.com. And we're also sponsored by Nutrabox. Go Cubes. If you haven't had those, you can go over to Nutrabox.com and get yourself some Go Cubes. You can order them off of Amazon. They are essentially chewable coffee. So it's got a little bit of nootropic, that's not how you say it, nootropics. It's got a little bit of caffeine in there. If you take 2 of these cubes, it's like having 1 glass of coffee. And you get amped up for the rest of the millennium. Anyway, so we got a couple people in the chat hitting me up saying, fuck your white paper. Fuck my white paper. Okay, you don't even know what my white paper contains right now. Pop-Tarts, too. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. So, tonight, what I wanted to do is I just wanted to have a little bit of a conversation with you guys about what's been going on in the space. And, Pop-Tarts doesn't really factor into the equation at all. But I am still selling Pop-Tarts on Open Bazaar. You can go to my store. I will post the link in. I'll post a link in the chat so you can go there and get yourself some really amazing Pop-Tarts. But tonight, what I want to talk about is I am actually in process of developing one of the most advanced and most scientifically backed and proven white papers. It's going to blow your mind. I'll have more information for that soon, and I will share that via Twitter. We'll just stick with Twitter. But anyway, so the price tonight, $79.46 for Bitcoin on Coinbase. Let's go ahead and do a little quick coin market cap check. Let's see how it's going down. All right, we got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Ripple, rounding out at number 4. Ripple is one of those things, it just sticks around. I really just thought that shit was going to die so long ago, and it is still around. In fact, I made a video about them and their fidget spinners that they're selling, which you can find on my YouTube channel. You can find the advertisement. I reposted that for the fidget spinner, Ripple's fidget spinner. I'm actually pretty sure that the $8.8 billion market cap of Ripple is mostly being propped up by the sales of these fidget spinners. I can't really prove that, but I know for sure that it has a big impact on the price of the market cap. Now, the Bitfinex Tether FUD. I'll be real honest with you. I do not follow Tether. I don't follow any of that crap. Richie Rich, what's up? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the video stream. Is it a white paper about a white paper? That would be pretty insane, a meta white paper. I'll have to keep that in mind. Maybe I'll do this thing where like every single, I'll drop like something really important in the white paper, and then I'll have a footnote that links out to another white paper. That would be pretty fascinating. I think that would be pretty interesting. Like a recursive white paper. I don't know if it's ever been done, but I'm pretty sure it would be fairly groundbreaking, especially coming from me. So if you guys have any questions, you want to talk about something specifically in the, tonight, go ahead, hit me up, give me a chat question, and let's talk. Now, I am not going to be bringing anything as earth-shattering or as groundbreaking as what Jimmy Song brings, or Tone Vase. He's going to bring up some charts, show you some amazing stuff. I don't have any of that for you. How many of you guys have been following the videos I've been posting? So I have this. I hate to call it a fetish, but it's pretty close to a fetish for creating videos that basically, you know, I have this problem when I watch any kind of video that, you know, is trying to depict something serious, or it's like really like, you know, when people take themselves too seriously in the space, it's just a ripe time to take that and just completely satirize it. And you know, that's pretty much what I've been doing with my videos on the channel. So I'm glad you like it. Chuck likes those. You're probably the only one. They get about 100 views. So realistically, about 80 of those are probably me just playing them back and laughing my ass off at them. But I'm glad that there are some people, at least a few individuals other than myself, that find them hilarious. Yeah, I'm with you, Chuck. I was crying at the own video. You know, the thing is like, you have to understand that, like, when I film these videos, I literally film them first take. I was talking in the Telegram chat with Mike in Space, and we were talking about Bitcoin Car Talk and the videos that I publish. And I pretty much told him, I was like, you know, we should do something together. And he told me, he was like, look, it takes me a lot of work to put together this like really good quality Bitcoin Car Talk episode to give people what they want. And I was like, you know what, I have to be really honest with you. I spend like 15 minutes on my videos. Now, the length of my videos is super short, and I will give Mike some serious props. Like, his Bitcoin Car Talk videos are pretty well thought out. He takes a lot of time to write out the scripts and try to get people to do what he's trying to get across in the video. But the funniest part about those videos is that the people that he talks to, they literally can't comprehend what he's asking them to do, and I'm right there with him. In fact, he had a couple episodes where he wanted me to play trombone. You can see the trombone in the background. He wanted me to play the trombone and record it so that he could like splice it into the video he was doing. And I literally did not follow any of his instructions. First of all, it took me like 3 weeks to get back to him. Then I changed outfits in the middle of recording these videos. Now, I didn't even realize that was what I was doing. I actually was wearing a shirt that was very similar in color, and I didn't notice that it was different. But that kind of adds to the humor of the video. And when you look at what other people have done, like, for instance, the video that he did where Paul Stortz is in the car, I believe that the only reason why he even had that part where Paul Stortz was like waiting for the call to come in was because Paul sent him some long-ass rambling video where he wasn't actually recording anything, and he turned it into something really funny. And I think that's kind of how these things go. So, like, for instance, today I was watching, I was kind of looking through the Jerry Brito video that I was doing, and he kept on, like, tapping the desk. He was like, yeah, and Bitcoin would, like, psh, psh, and like, every time I saw him, like, tap the desk, all I could think of was, like, him hitting, like, some toms on a drum set, like, bum, 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 bum. And, you know, that, oh my God, I like, once I had that thought in my head, I just, like, couldn't unsee it. And the interviewer was just so serious. And that's the thing, is, like, some of these videos where the interviewer is so, they're trying to be really serious, but, you know, having been in Bitcoin for several years now, especially back when it was just such a, I mean, it was like, you know, a Bitcoin conference was essentially like a yard sale. I mean, it was like a couple like dorks in a room, and we were just, you know, just talking about Bitcoin and how cool it is, and basically, like, when you're in a room with a bunch of people and you're talking about Bitcoin and you're saying how cool it is, that basically, like, completely undoes anything that, like, it's not cool anymore. It literally is like, that's the definition of not cool. It's like people standing in a room talking about something and saying it's cool. It's the opposite. And that's basically what Bitcoin was for like 2 or 3 years. And just now, you're starting to get like, it's so incredible. Like when I watch these BitConnect videos where you're watching this massive conference. Like, I don't think I've ever been to a conference that was as big as any of these ones for like OneCoin or BitConnect. They're just huge, and I don't know who the fuck these people are. Like, who are all these people? Like BitConnect, it's just one after another. Like people coming up onto the stage. Hey, we got Bobby Joe from Brazil, and he's showing up, and he did $10,000 of affiliate, driving fees into BitConnect. It's so scammy, but like it's funny that they're using cryptocurrency as like the backbone of their scam, and I find it just hilarious. I mean, I feel so bad for these people because growing up, my mother was she was the typical housewife. She had nothing to do. Her friends would like chitter chatter about different things, and like she went through. Most of you are probably like too young to know about this, but there was like this whole thing, like there was Tupperware, and there were Longaberger baskets. They were like these stupid baskets that they would try to get women to pass out these brochures at little dinner parties, and try to get people to buy these baskets. And they were like, they're collectible, they're going to be more valuable eventually. And I remember going. Another thing is, when I was a kid, was these Kenner starting lineups. These starting lineups were like these There were sports action figures. They were just like little figurines about toys. And my father and I, we would literally call up Toys R Us every night, and we'd be like, "Hey, have you gotten a new shipment of these starting lineup?" And we would go and we'd try to get them. And we're like, "We're going to go to college with these starting lineups. He's going to put me through college." And I swear to God, we probably have 20 cases of these. I mean, hundreds of these sealed up starting lineups sitting in my parents' basement. And like for shits and giggles, like every once in a while we joke about it, and then I go online and I look up. I try to see the value. I try to see like what the estimated value of these things are. And you know what they are? They're worth jack shit. They're like Beanie Babies. They're literally worth like $8 for the whole 1,000 figurines. And you're starting to see that a little bit with Bitcoin. It's like people, myself included, were like, "Oh, if we just buy one Bitcoin for our child, in 20 years, they're going to be worth, this one Bitcoin is going to put all my kids through college." And we're serious about it. We actually really believe that. And there's like these tangible examples of people who've done that with Beanie Babies and other types of products, and they literally turn to nothing. In fact, there's a video on comic books is a really good analogy there. Jeff, good point out. That was another one we did. I remember my father had heard about the death of Superman. And I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was a long time ago. God, I have to look that up. Death of Superman comic book. So this comic book came out 1992. So I was 10 years old. I was in 5th grade at this point. And my father heard about the death of Superman. Now, it's so stupid. Like, people were actually getting ramped up about the death of Superman. Like literally, DC Comics is going to kill off their number one, well, it's debatable, Batman, Superman. One of their number one franchises, they're going to kill his ass off in a comic book, and that's going to be the end of it. That means no t-shirts, no movies, no nothing. It was the stupidest idea ever, but people lost their goddamn mind. There were news events about it. Oh, you gotta get the comic book. We bought like 100 of these comic books, thinking they were gonna go up in value, and I have those too. I have to be honest with you. I have a bunch of those in the basement too, at my parents' house, and they're worth nothing. So, what makes us think that like Bitcoin is going to be any different? I don't know. It feels different. I believe in it. I mean, I didn't build an entire company and project, on the back of comic books or starting lineups or Tupperware, but many people did. Perhaps we're in the same distortion bubble. I don't know, but the good thing is that we take those past experiences and we learn and we build off of them. So you can always take something from that and move on. But most of us, we're still stupid. We don't ever just evolve as a human. We just continue to fall into the same stupid traps and make mistakes. But anyway, I don't even know how we got off on this tangent. It's this is how it goes with fads, right? There's something comes along, it becomes very popular, a bunch of people rush in, there's a lot of money to be made, and the only smart people are the ones that somehow are lucky enough to time getting out. Now, Bitcoin could be different. It could be different. Technology, like Bitcoin, tends to go on longer curves, but it doesn't last forever. It doesn't last forever. So you can look at it this way: like the internet has been a giant bubble, or not necessarily a bubble. It's been a big growth curve, right? Like we've gotten to peak internet, and decentralization and Bitcoin and dApps and blockchain and all this stuff. They're kind of like the next. It's like, well, we ran out of things to try and stimulate more growth. This is like the next phase. You always hear people refer to blockchain as like, this is just like the internet. In a lot of ways, it is just like the internet, which is also just like other things that people got very into. Now, whether it can actually impact humanity and change things like the internet did, that's debatable. Fubargorch has asked me, am I going to overdub Roger's new radio ad? The lip sync would be a bit difficult. Now, I'm not really sure why it would be difficult. I haven't seen this radio ad. Perhaps I should take a look at it. Can I find it on YouTube? Does anybody have a link to it? If you have a link to it, Fubar Gorch, if you could share it in the chat, I'd love to take a look at it. I think I saw a Reddit article about someone filing like some kind of radio ad at like 150 different radio stations or something nationwide, pumping Bitcoin Cash. Now, do you guys want to hear how I feel about Bitcoin Cash and other currencies? Okay, there's a delay, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. So, when it comes to Bitcoin and other currencies, this is how I think about it. When I first got into Bitcoin, I read the white paper and I started to try and figure it out. Now, Bitcoin is not a simple technology. It's not. Now, the white paper is pretty straightforward, explains things pretty basically, and things have gotten a lot more complicated since then. But at its root, it's got specific concepts that we all have kind of come to accept are reasonably sound. Like we've seen enough over time from Bitcoin to know that proof of work generally works as intended. The blockchain is a good concept. You can exchange value. We can build products and services on top of it. It's pretty reliable. But there was always these kind of like, flies around Bitcoin that were trying, they were like, well, I don't want to go through the hard process of working with core developers on Bitcoin and convincing them to incorporate these like crazy or dumb ideas, in some cases, into Bitcoin. So since it's open source, we're just going to fork it. And now, we never used to like have this like fascination around forks. It was really just like, here's Bitcoin, and then here's a bunch of like people that are crazy that are doing silly things, and we kind of laughed it off. I remember I was on a vacation with some friends, and I got a call from a buddy, and he was like, "Hey, I know you're like the Bitcoin guy. I heard about this thing. It's like Dogecoin. I got in, and it's pumping, and like I'm making so much money. I'm about to get out of it. It went from like 3 cents to 7 cents, and it was awesome." And it was just so funny, like, oh, we're gonna, sponsor the Jamaican bobsled team, and it just was like a cute project. You fast forward a couple of years, and now it's like this like serious, we're like the rhetoric and the narrative against people doing alternative projects is just so much more intense. It's people, it's an attack on Bitcoin and all this stuff. But the thing is like, if you call what's happening now as an attack on Bitcoin, then all these were attacks on Bitcoin. And in some way, they're not like aggressive attacks. They're basically saying that the concept of Bitcoin should be able to change, and you're not letting these minority voices, have any kind of impact on Bitcoin itself. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about, whether or not that should be that way or should not be that way. Now, my background has been, I spent over a decade working in consulting. And consulting, in a lot of ways, is a lot of bullshit. It's a lot of bullshit in the fact that, most of the hard work is not really in coming up with interesting or novel technology or accomplishments. It's really about working with other people and getting them to do what you want them to do, right? So if you, for instance, work with for instance, I worked with the Treasury Department, and they want to revamp some system. And, you have a bunch of old-timer, OG IT guys, and they don't want to change anything of their system. They're using these old databases. They're on Oracle 7, what was it? Oracle 8i, Oracle 8i, and they don't want to move to this new stuff in the cloud. You basically got to work with them to convince them to completely revamp their architecture and do all this hard work. But they don't want to, because they've spent 15 years building this thing. They have the expertise, and they're defending their position. Like, there's nothing for them. There's no reward for them to do all this extra work, to cause all these extra problems for themselves, to throw the whole architecture into disarray and go to the next wave. So, this becomes a big fight, and then you have to convince them, and you have to pressure them into doing these things. And it becomes more of like a mental exercise with people to convince them to do something, rather than a discussion about the merits of moving to a new technology. Now, I don't know if that's a perfect reference point for what's happening in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is certainly getting to the point where a lot of the infrastructure and architecture around Bitcoin has gotten solidified. Like, we've proven that these things work on some level. They're happy with the way it's going. The price is going up. There's really no clear indication to a lot of people that anything needs to change. And so, okay, cool. We got Roger's video. Let's do this. Now, you guys are probably not going to be able to hear this. In fact, I'm almost positive you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to watch it anyway. So I'm starting it up. Okay, Bitcoin Cash wallet. Oh wow. Okay, we got to get this. I'm gonna figure out how to get this onto the stream real quick. Okay, so you know what we'll do? We will let's do this. I am going to share that window, capture the audio. Let's see if we can do this. Oh, this is too funny. Okay, so let's select the window. There's Chrome. Because you guys gotta watch this with me. This is pretty good. Now, I have to clarify. Like, I like Roger. Roger's a nice guy. Okay, he really is. He's a super nice guy. And I mean, he's super passionate about what he does, and you know, it's debatable on whether his attacks and so-called attacks or whatever are damaging for Bitcoin. But as a human being, he's a nice guy. He's always been nice to me, so I will caveat that. But he's certainly very. I think nothing stands in the way of what he envisions as being important for Bitcoin. So I'm going to try and switch this over, and let's see if we can watch the commercial together. Okay, so hopefully y'all can see the commercial, and I'm going to go ahead and play it now. So here we go.
Earlier this year, conflict over the direction of Bitcoin.
Oh, we're missing it. I got to get the audio going. Let's see.
Earlier this year, after many years of conflict over the direction of Bitcoin, the creators of Bitcoin Cash did just what they were told to do. They forked off. Now there are two Bitcoins, the one that is run by the big bank patsies, and Bitcoin Cash, the one that stays true to the creator's vision. Bitcoin Cash has surprised many with its relevancy and staying power, and the price reflects it. If you believe that Bitcoin was meant to be a low-cost, easy-to-use, peer-to-peer currency that could bring economic freedom to the world, you need Bitcoin Cash. Get your Bitcoin Cash wallet right now at bitcoin.com. Earlier this year.
Okay. I'm sorry. I gotta watch that one more time. I'll narrate over it as it goes on.
Earlier this year, after many years of conflict over the direction of Bitcoin, the creators of Bitcoin Cash did just what they were told to do. They forked off. Now there are two.
They forked off. I really appreciate the very low quality voiceover that they got, the movie voice guy. It's like, one man, one mission, Bitcoin.com. You know, it's like dime a dozen kind of narrator for this. Now, I don't know. I don't know if Roger is the one who funded this commercial, but I have to say it's absolutely amazing. It's great. Okay. So after years of Bitcoin Cash fighting, which is true, but still hilarious to hear it like that.
Were told to do. Cash did just what they were told to do. They forked off.
They did exactly what they were told to do. They forked off. Now, they did exactly what they were. Now, think about it. Right there, right there. He says they did exactly what they were told to do. So later on in the video, they say, "Do you want to choose the currency that has been chosen by the corporate patsies?" And he's like, "But we did exactly what we were told to do." You know, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you frame this as, fuck these guys, we did what we wanted to do. Instead, we did exactly what they told us that we should do. They told us we were wrong and we'd never succeed, so we didn't on purpose. It's the dumbest thing ever. Okay, let's continue. Let's hear what else we got here.
Now there are two Bitcoins, the one that is run by the big bank patsies.
Okay, that's not true. There are not two Bitcoins. There are like 18,000 Bitcoins if we're going to go by that. We have Bitcoin Gold. We have Bitcoin Cash. We have Bitcoin Classic. We have Bitcoin Unlimited. We have Bitcoin XT. There's probably like a ton that I'm not even thinking of. Those are just like the ones that I can even recall. There's certainly not two Bitcoins. I don't even understand this whole argument around turning Bitcoin into, like, why are you trying to hijack Bitcoin? I'm completely behind the idea of having a coin that has different properties, but you have to give up the idea that some new project is going to be Bitcoin. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just not going to happen. Like, people are not going to all of a sudden think that Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. I'm sorry. And I'll have that discussion with Roger. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. And I don't think it, you know what? And I don't think it matters at all. Because the best thing that Ethereum ever did was they made that thing so different in terms of branding, naming, target audience, everything from Bitcoin. And what has it done? They've created like a second layer or a second tier of kind of blockchain stuff. It's a completely separate thing. And you have people that are completely devout and devoted to it. But instead, Bitcoin Cash, it's always going to have this legacy crap that they bring with them. So I just don't understand the rationale. I mean, I understand being upset and wanting to like change what it was, but it's never coming back,
And Bitcoin Cash, the one that stays true to the creator's vision.
Creator's vision. Okay, here's another thing. The creator has not been around for a long time. Satoshi has not been around for a long time. Okay, Craig Wright is not Satoshi. I mean, even if he is part of Satoshi, he is not the entire Satoshi. And so, therefore, it makes no sense to keep referring back to Satoshi as a ground point. It's like going back to the original topic that Linus Torvalds put out about Linux and like what it was and everything. I mean, to be honest, I think. Now, I may be remembering this incorrectly, but I remember, to my recollection, that he sent an email to the mailing list, to the Minix mailing list, telling them, oh, Linux is probably not going to be successful, blah, blah, blah. It's this like tiny little thing that I don't intend to be really big, blah, blah, blah. And it's completely different now. It just is. That's the reality of the way things go. So that's enough of this video. So I'm gonna switch back to my video. Let's see if I can, I don't even know if I can figure out how to get this back in. The fun part about doing these live things is that I have no clue how to turn this off. Okay, let's see. How do I? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. That wasn't a full overdub. You want me to do like a full overdub of the video? I can do that. I'll do that for you guys. How about that? Before I turn it off, since I can't figure out how to turn the damn thing off. I will do a live overdub for you. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay.
Earlier this year.
Okay, I'm going to turn the sound off, and I'm going to do the dub for you on the fly. You guys are very lucky. So, you know what, I'll put the closed captions on so I know exactly what it is. I'll just wing it. Earlier this year, there was a massive battle between Bitcoin developers, and we did exactly what they told us to do. We forked we created a wallet that looks nothing like a good wallet. It looks exactly like a copay ripoff, and it barely works. But you can spend your cash in our mempool because we have literally no transactions to clog up our blockchain. Get blockchain, get Bitcoin Cash. Okay, so that was my first cut. That wasn't amazing, but you know what? It's good enough for tonight. So, okay. Well, let's see if I can figure out how to get this damn thing off of my video. I don't even know. Okay. Ah, there we go. Is that it? You know, it's very agitating that I cannot get rid of this other thing. You know what? This is driving me bonkers. I'm stuck with the YouTube video over my face. You know what? Let's try this. Let's oh, sweet Jesus. This is what happens when you don't know how to use technology at all. Oh, okay. All right. I figured it out. Hello? Can you hear? Okay, okay, I'm back. I'm back. Fubar killed it. Yeah, okay. So, what I was starting to say was that, so basically, the reason that Obi-Wan and you know me specifically got back into, or literally was working to push SegWit 2x as a concept was because of exactly the problem that we're seeing right now with fees, which is that we know that they're going up, and you know, unfortunately and fortunately, it's both fortunately and unfortunately. Fortunately, Bitcoin is becoming more popular, and more people are coming into Bitcoin. But the problem is that as more people use it, it becomes more expensive to use because the scaling efforts have not really caught up with the demand. And also, you know, it's debatable what's causing that. Now, whether it's spam or legitimate transactions, fine. You can argue that till your face turns blue, but the reality is that most transactions are not occurring fast at low cost. Now, we get a lot of criticism that says, hey, OpenBazaar should implement custom fees or better fee estimation, etc., etc., etc. But you know, all of this basically goes back to the fact that like you have to kind of hack around the idea that fees are high. And we knew that was coming. It's been several years we've had this argument right? Just like they said in the Bitcoin Cash commercial, this has been a topic of discussion for a long time. I remember sitting in Satoshi Roundtable earlier in 2017 discussing the challenges about that, and there was no solution then, and other than layer 2, which was what was proposed in January of earlier this year, and which is currently pushed right now. Now, I don't know how far out we are, but we certainly aren't there yet. No one is meaningfully using Lightning right now. Mimblewimble just went to testnet, which as far as I know is not. I mean, I tried to install it today, and I had some trouble trying to get it running on my machine. But all these layer 2 options are just like kind of far out, and so basically the response from a lot of people is like, well, fuck you, like you're early, tough shit, use a different coin. So that's kind of the perception. That's the perspective that we have, and so we're going to be introducing other coins. I really am not like super excited about that, to be honest. I mean, I like the fact that we're able to bring a more diverse community into OpenBazaar and let them use it, but having to focus on bunches of different wallets and coins is not a simple thing to do. I mean, we in fact had a conversation with some of the folks from like Zcash today, and they're like, oh, well, we don't have an SPV wallet that works on Go yet, and we'll have to build that, and so now I have to have my guys build an SPV wallet in Go for Zcash, and then Charlie Lee, private messages me, and we talk about, what do we need to get Lightning, or Litecoin onto OpenBazaar, and it's like, well, we don't have a wallet for that, so now we have to build an SPV wallet for Litecoin that works properly with OpenBazaar, and it just goes on and on and on. And then you have Monero, like, oh, use Monero. Well, Monero doesn't even have multi-sig, so that hasn't even been merged in and won't be until late December. So all these people are like, hey, just do this, just do that, use this, use that, use clams, use Ripple. It's it seems like super silly to just like that it would take so long to implement these things, but it's not that straightforward. So so we're going to be working on it. We're trying to come up with like a really good comprehensive way to incorporate that. But I have to think that other products are feeling the same way. I mean, I mean, we spend a lot of time building a product. We have something that people actually use. We constantly get people complaining about the fees, and that's definitely a hindrance to our adoption. I mean, our product works. We spent a lot of time, a lot of money getting it to go, and to have the fees kill us is just so ridiculous, because it's out of our control, and we feel like giving projects like ours a reprieve by bumping the base block size to incorporate this would be great. I mean, and we're doing everything we can from our side. I mean, we've implemented SegWit. We're sending SegWit transactions. We're doing our part. Why aren't we getting to benefit from that extra work? We're doing what we were told. We implemented SegWit. So it just kind of sucks, and that's a little bit of sour grapes. I understand that, and business is not. It's not a charity. You have to work hard to get what you want, but this is the world we're working in. So just trying to explain a little bit about where we're at now. So Fubar asked, what do you think of Lightning for OB1? Is that also on the agenda? I'll be really honest with you. The way that, and this is no slight to the Lightning team. I really like Elizabeth Stark. I like, I've never met Taj in person, but he's been pretty nice in correspondence. I really love Joseph Poon, who's not with Lightning anymore, but was part of that original team. I think the idea sounds really good on the surface. There's some issues around tying them to on-chain transactions, which has been iterated a bunch of times, and I think it's been adequately debated. There's some new ideas around that, but once again, I mean, this is all conceptual stuff right now. I mean, the product, the spec is getting finalized, but the spec doesn't account for, as far as I can tell, it doesn't account for the challenges of still having to anchor it back to on-chain transactions, and this is just detrimental to a lot of projects that this stuff is not available yet. I mean, Blockstack, for instance, I bring them up because I used them recently, and we have kind of a developer relationship with them. But I was like, so I don't know if most people understand the history of Blockstack, but it used to be one name. So you used to register the names on Namecoin, which Namecoin was like this, most people don't even think about it anymore, but it was like, hey, here's Bitcoin, it's good for value transfer, and Namecoin is going to be like the DNS of the decentralized DNS of the internet. And people, were thinking about that. And so one name came along and said, okay, we're going to build this really cool name registration system and identity system on top of Namecoin. And then Namecoin had all these problems. It was basically being 51% not attacked, but one miner controlled most of the hashing power on Namecoin. And so they decided to switch off for security reasons back to Bitcoin. And in one name, which is now Blockstack, actually foot all the fees for registrations. So you would go to onename.com, sign up for a username, a user account on one name, and then it would be locked into the blockchain. But they were paying all those transaction fees for any I think they did something like 70 something thousand registrations. They paid for that out of pocket if they were done through onename.com. And the fees were pretty much negligible, from an individual standpoint. But as far as I know, it was thousands and thousands of dollars each month for them to eat the fees, the Bitcoin fees, to register those names for people. And they were willing to do that for a long, long, long time. Sorry about that. And then it just basically it started to become untenable this year. And the new Blockstack, which is rolled out recently, it now forces people to pay for all their registrations. And I can tell you right now, it's super pricey. It's super expensive. I think I registered Brian Hoffman.id, OpenBazaar.id, and OB1.id, and they both anywhere between $37 and $60 it costs to register those names, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, a lot of that was fee. I mean, I think I used Copay Wallet for 2 of them, and it was super economical, which is the cheapest fee setting you can do on Copay Wallet, and it was 8% of the transaction or something was fees, which is pretty substantial. It kind of sucks. But when you think about a system where you're registering a name on the blockchain and costs you $60, I mean, I can register a normal DNS name for probably under $10 if I'm savvy, through GoDaddy or something. So anyway, it's just kind of a sad state of affairs. What are my thoughts on solving the fee issue? Second layer, the bigger blocks in the future, then bigger blocks in the future. Well, that's kind of backwards from what I expected. I thought that the bigger blocks is kind of the lower hanging fruit. It's a rather straightforward fix. Second layer is way more complex. There's a lot of issues around routing, and like I said, anchoring those channels back to the main blockchain that just really haven't been solved. And internally, we've looked at Lightning and tried to run some tests on that, and we ran into some issues. We couldn't find way, it would be routing can't be found to send your transaction, and the response would be oh, restart the Lightning app and do it again, which we did, and then eventually we got it to work, but it's certainly not close to bulletproof. I understand it's early software, but still, like, how are we supposed to move all of our OpenBazaar users over to that if it's that unreliable? So it's coming, I guess. My son at the chess tournament, thank you very much for asking, Chuck. He had 4 matches. First one he lost outright. There was a kid who was pretty damn good. The next 2 he fought to a draw, and he probably should have won those, but he was stuck in like he couldn't get the checkmate, and they ran out of time, so they called it a draw after so many moves. And then the final one he lost again, which he made kind of a brain fart move. So 2 losses, 2 ties. But last year he lost all his matches, so he's progressing. Anyway, so where are we at with the future? I mean, in my mind, OpenBazaar is really a marketplace protocol. We built it to be blockchain agnostic, and ultimately we feel like people should be able to choose which payment systems they use to do commerce with. Like when you do business on e-commerce platforms, nobody forces people to use just Visa. It really sucked when eBay made people just use PayPal. That was not a great option, and they ended up having to open it up so that PayPal would accept credit cards and other payment methodologies. So that's kind of the way we look at it. Originally we intended it to be a Bitcoin focused network, and so to encourage people to use Bitcoin, and we thought all the other currencies were either not secure or not appropriate for this kind of thing. But the world has changed. There are a lot of currencies out there. People using it has seemed more adequate for doing transactions, and we want to give people the option to use lower fee transactions that confirm more quickly, that maybe are less secure for smaller payments. And if you're selling a house, maybe Bitcoin is the only adequate payment process for doing business. It should be your choice. So that's the path we're heading down. I think it'll be pretty cool. We got some ideas around how that will work. One of the things that we're thinking through is, how much choice do we give to users? Like for instance, this is the kind of thing where we want the buyers to be able to use any payment methodology no matter what, and then the merchants just have to deal with it. Or do we give merchants the liberty to say, hey, I hate Bitcoin Cash, or I hate Zcash, or I just don't want to accept these other currencies and deal with that. I only want to accept Bitcoin. If we do that, you can envision this scenario where like I come onto a platform and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool product. Oh, it's only available if I pay them in Zcash. Well, that kind of sucks. That sucks for the buyer. And, in most cases, the buyer is not going to jump through the hoops to, get that other currency, pay, do all that stuff. So, this is why I question the rationale behind someone like Ryan X. Charles, who, he's like, oh, I'm going to switch completely to Bitcoin Cash, or I'm going to switch completely to Ethereum Classic, or whatever. You're basically like you're shutting all these other communities to make a point and go with these other platforms. I don't think that really like helps the situation. I mean, we have so many users that like using Bitcoin. They have Bitcoin. They're already familiar with Bitcoin and don't want to use anything other than that. I mean, they're upset about the fees, but they don't want to be forced to have to move to Bitcoin Cash. And in my opinion, I don't think that we're in a place to start trying to force other people to use other platforms. I mean, Coinbase doesn't just say, hey, Bitcoin sucks now, we're going to make you all use Bitcoin Cash. Like, that would literally kill their business. And I feel the same way about OpenBazaar. So we're not going to go down that road. And you're right, Fubar. Too much choice is crippling as far as usability. It sucks, right? Choice kind of sucks sometimes. You see that with the Android versus iOS debate. You know, you have Android, which gives you a ton of options and ends up being kind of kludgy and not consistent at times, whereas iOS limits what you can actually do and creates a much more consistent and reliable user experience. Now, there's room for both, but you know, if you're trying to get people that aren't comfortable with crypto into to an application, you certainly don't want to be asking them to have like 25 different wallets and understand all the differences between them. A vote or poll with OB merchants to determine what they accept. Okay, so here's the deal with voting. Voting sucks. If people don't, it's always gamed. We learned that on Twitter. Twitter polls are fun. Twitter votes are fun, just to see what's going on. But it's basically gang mentality, and you just basically see, you know, who can muster up enough support to game the voting. I mean, it's really no different with proof of work, to be honest. I mean, proof of work is just, instead of, you know, clicking a button, it's who can gather the most energy. And we're already seeing that. And, you know, obviously, the core devs have realized that, and, you know, there's all this, like, buyer's remorse or whatever from the hash power stuff of, you know, miner signaling for changes and things like that. I mean, that's how we got to here with the UASF, right? Like, the whole reason the UASF came about is because the miners couldn't be trusted to vote properly. And I put properly in quotes because, you know, what's properly? It's subjective. Can I buy drugs on OpenBazaar? I'm sure you can, and I'm sure people have. That's you know, I'm not a drug user. I'm not an advocate for drugs or drug sales. But I also don't, you know, I mean, I don't condone buying the newest CD by Taylor Swift either. I don't really care for her either. But, you know, people are free to do what they do. In terms of legalities, though, OB1, you know, we run a search engine, which is a centralized service that crawls the network, and we don't, or at least we try as hard as we can to remove those types of listings from our index. But it does not stop that stuff from being available on the network. So yes, you probably can buy drugs on it, but you know, you can buy drugs on the internet in general. Atomic swap support. This is an interesting one. I think, you know, atomic swaps in general are probably going to lead to the fact that decentralized coin exchanges are going to happen, which is kind of cool because, you know, like right now we lean on Shapeshift for doing multiple currencies, which is basically, you know, it's not an atomic swap, but it's, you know, it's a currency swap. So, you know, we tell them they only can accept Bitcoin. You know, you take the coins, they do the swap, and then it gets converted to Bitcoin and sent into the OpenBazaar system. So atomic swaps would be kind of cool because if you could natively do that within OpenBazaar, like just trade coins, that would create a much better situation as well. Anyway, okay, so this has gone on for about an hour, so I don't... what did Vitalik say about heroin? This is about a 10-second delay, so I won't respond to this until Jeff actually puts in a response here, because I don't really know what Vitalik said about heroin. I did happen to see the comment about child porn, and this was... you know, I was I was actually at my son's chess tournament this weekend, and I was sitting in like a elementary school cafeteria just waiting for him to finish his match. Like Donald Trump, I gotta take a drink real quick. And I was like looking through the feeds, and then there was this big thing about how Rick Falkfinge had supported child pornography under freedom of speech, and I was like, wow, this guy's so dumb for like bringing this up, because really there's a couple taboos that literally people don't like universally, and that's child pornography. Like you just don't even just try to like sugarcoat it. Like it's just no child porn. Okay? And as a parent, I can say it only gets worse once you're actually a parent. So there's just really no room to actually there's no wiggle room to even go there. Now, if you want to be like somebody who's vilified and put into a corner for the rest of life as like some kind of academic thought, leader, and you're just like going straight off on logical principles, but like seriously, just don't touch child porn. And then it's like Vitalik's like, hold my beer, and he just goes off and starts talking about it. And you can't delete that tweet. You can't delete anything off the internet. It's done. It's just so stupid. And and I agree. I agree that maybe Rick was being taken out of context, or they spun it or whatever. But you know what? When those words come out of your mouth, child porn, it's just, you did it, you said it, and that's just the way it is. Like, there's just no acceptable reason to talk about that other than to say, I completely admonish child pornography, period. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Move on. Let's talk about a different topic. You want to talk about drug laws being unfair? All of these things can be acceptable, but child pornography, hands down, not acceptable. You don't talk about it. Anyway, enough of that. I don't even like to think about that concept. It's just terrible. I don't even know where I was going with that at this point. So Adam kind of asked to explain the history of Open Bazaar with dark market and everything. So I've done this like about 1,000 times in interviews, so I'm not like super excited to keep reiterating about it, but I'll give you a quick spiel because I'll be nice. So in 2014, early 2014, I think it was like March or April, at the Toronto Hackathon. I think actually let's back up beyond that. So before that, Amir Taki was working with a couple people on Dark Wallet, which was the idea behind that. He had a couple products before that he worked at that had some kind of sketchy endings or whatever, but basically he came up with the idea of like a wallet that was primarily focused on being the dark side of Bitcoin, which was, hey, look, we have this like we have this currency that can be kind of like pretty much anonymous. It can support money laundering, all these like avoid regulatory compliance issues. Let's build a wallet that like really takes those things up a notch and just like thumbs its nose at authority. So they came up with the idea for Dark Wallet. And I believe they did a crowd fund for Dark Wallet that raised about $50,000, which is pretty sad, considering that today that idea probably would net them in the possibly $1 million range in terms of an ICO if they decided to go that route. Anyway, so they didn't raise all that much money for Dark Wallet. He famously mentioned that they were living off of like sausages and some other stuff, and just living in like, they were basically like slumming it in like, they were squatting in some hacker homes, abandoned buildings and stuff in London, building the software. And so they decided to try and earn the $20,000 prize, I think, at the Toronto Hackathon. And the idea that they came up with was called Dark Market. And the idea was, okay, the work they're doing on, so he was building LibBitcoin, which was a alternative implementation of Bitcoin Core. It was a full node implementation. They took that and they combined it with, peer-to-peer technology and tried to create like a little bit of a marketplace out of that. That was the idea. An unstoppable marketplace, because a couple months before that, Silk Road had been shut down, and there was this fear that that kind of free libertarian marketplace idea would not be continued because they would just keep getting shut down, even if they recreated them. So dark market was created, and interestingly enough, it was an idea that was very well received within the Bitcoin community. There was a lot of excitement around it, but nobody was nobody was willing to do much about it or help build it, which is what that kind of thing takes. I reached out to Amir directly and said, how can I help? I wasn't really working on any Bitcoin projects at the time, and he just said, look, I think a bunch of people are going to start forks of Dark Market. You're the first one to come along. I'll add you to the list. So like on GitHub, he basically added us as like, I think there was a section for like forks of Dark Market, and he put us on there, and no one else ever created another fork as far as I know, at least a serious one. And then finally he just had the whole GitHub repo redirected to OpenBazaar. And I was actually added to the Dark Wallet GitHub team. I think I still actually am a member of the GitHub team. I'm looking now to see if that even is a thing still. But so github.com/darkwallet. If you go to their organization, yep, it's still there. So if you look on that, on the people list, for people who are part of the team, you'll see that, let's see, there's about 16 people there, 2 of which are developers for OpenBazaar. Then there's Pablo and Amir, who are like the main guys, and then a couple anonymous people. Let's see if there's anyone else of note on here. Kyle Drake's on here. Lucas, who I met in Zurich, is on there. Taylor Gehring, who's big Ethereum guy now, is on there. So a couple people as part of that team really thought that Dark Wallet and Dark Market were going to go somewhere, and it really just ended up not going anywhere. So anyway, so OpenBazaar basically forked off. We changed the name, just wanted like a separate identity. They weren't really being part of this process, so it just made sense to like cut loose from them and really, this goes back to the whole forking thing, right? Like OpenBazaar, I mean, we could have called ourselves Dark Market Plus or something, and confused people and just kind of continue that brand. But out of respect, because we were something different, we were a different team with slightly different mission, we changed it to OpenBazaar. And I think that's, every once in a while someone comes out of the woodwork to be like, you guys suck, you're not Dark Market, we really wish Dark Market had been a thing. But that's always going to be the case. So Bert Mage says, give me some free Bazaar coin. I'll tell you what, Bert, you email me, and the moment we have Bazaar coins, I will give you some free Bazaar coins. Dark Market Cash. Yeah, that would have been funny. Dark Wallet Cash, Dark Wallet Market Cash, or something ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, I have to be honest with you. I don't even know what Aeon is. Is that a whole nother thing? I'll have to look into that now. Damn you. Gonna ruin my evening. Okay, so anyway, so that's the backstory of OpenBazaar, and it's just gone on from there. But yeah, you guys are the worst. Obi's not the creator's original vision. Yeah, exactly. It's not. It's not the creator's original vision. It's not a true Silk Road. Shadow Cache. So Shadow Cache is an interesting one. I don't know a lot about that. I mean, Shadow Cache led to Shadow Market, which I think is still a thing. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. They're another one of those decentralized marketplaces that thinks that they're more successful and better than us, and can try to attack us on Twitter. But the reality is that OpenBazaar is probably hands down the most well-known and successful decentralized marketplace for crypto, and we don't really have that many users. So these other marketplaces have like no users. So I don't know. It's like the worst two teams in football arguing over who's better. They both suck. We all suck still. We have a long ways to go. We have to get a lot better. And it's just a matter of doing the right thing and making a better product. And we believe we can do it. So I challenge you to beat us. Okay, well, it's 11:30 here, and my voice is getting tired. I won't be able to do voiceover videos if I continue. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in. I know there's only about 20 of you, but it was fun, and I will try to do this again sometime soon. Thanks a lot.